This challenge brought people closer together and made it clear that unity was essential for the journey ahead. Without relying on foreign help or Western oversight, Burkina Faso is now building the longest irrigation canal in Africa at record speed. No loans, no consultants, just concrete, water, and the determination of the people. But why is this happening now? Why is the country's push for true independence suddenly focused on water? And how did one dam lead to what many are calling Africa's boldest infrastructure project? Let's take a closer look. In a region troubled by armed conflict, dry seasons, and strained international relations, Captain Ibrahim Traoré made an unexpected move. He declared war. But this wasn't a war with guns or tanks. It was a war fought with water. For years, Burkina Faso's biggest weakness wasn't its military. It was its land. Despite its potential, the land had been overlooked by leaders and abandoned by rain. What pushed entire communities into poverty wasn't a lack of strength, but a lack of something more basic, reliable water all year round. A country that cannot feed itself can never truly be free, no matter what its constitution says. Traoré saw the fight differently. To him, real power didn't come from weapons, but from managing water. Control the flow of water, and you control life. Grow your own food, and you control your future. For too long, colonial and post-independence leaders ignored this truth. Real freedom doesn't come from speeches or summits. It comes from digging irrigation channels, not holding international meetings. This wasn't just about bad timing. Climate conditions in the Sahel were getting worse. Each year, hunger pushed countries like Burkina Faso to the edge. But instead of begging for aid again, Traoré made a choice. He chose to build. Waiting only meant more dependence on food relief and gave foreign powers more influence. And that's the part the outside world didn't expect. By focusing on water, Traoré launched more than a farming project. He started a form of resistance. A stand that meant Burkina Faso would no longer ask for food loans or bow to international grain donors. The flow of water wouldn't depend on rain, but on the country's own efforts. This was not just about farming. It was about breaking a system that had turned hunger into a tool of control. Why water? Because water is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about a country's debt, credit score, or place in global rankings. If you can control how water moves, you can turn dry land into farms and struggling villages into thriving communities. But water alone isn't enough. It needs a path, something to carry it across the land. That's where the next phase of this revolution begins. Traoré didn't just want access to water, he wanted it to be used as a tool for the people. So when the first waves flowed out of the Goulare Basin, they weren't headed for wealthy export farms or international markets. They were aimed at a piece of land that had long been ignored, overlooked by investors, dismissed by planners, and feared for its dry soil. That land was the Bama Plains. Traoré picked Bama for what it stood for, not how easy it would be. The same ground that had once split from drought would now become the heart of a national comeback. If he could make Bama flourish, it would show the world what was possible, not just food security, but real economic recovery and agricultural independence across the continent. The goal was simple: use water to break the chains. Use irrigation to end dependency. Start the transformation where it would mean the most, by turning the driest land into the clearest proof of freedom. Now that the battle has begun, the question isn't whether water can change everything. The only question is how fast we can make it flow. And that's what brings us to the front line of the future, the Canal of Bama. This is where it all begins, the site of execution, the testing ground, where ideas meet the soil, where dreams either take root or disappear. Captain Ibrahim Traoré didn't choose the Bama Plains because it was simple. He chose it because it was difficult. For years, Bama had been both ignored and misunderstood. It had rich soil but little water, and it was left behind by leaders who promised progress but delivered nothing. Over time, Bama came to represent what Burkina Faso could become, if only it had the leadership and determination to face both natural challenges and political neglect. When the Goulouré Dam was finally finished and the water was under control, Traoré acted without delay. He sent the first wave of water to Bama, not because it was the easiest option, but because it meant the most. If Bama could come to life, it would prove that even the most overlooked regions in Africa could succeed with vision and strong will. This is how the Bama Canal came to be. It was not some vague dream. It was a bold decision carved into the land. Today, the canal runs through 1,260 hectares of rice fields and 70 hectares of vegetable plots. In the Hue province, it has created a real working system of agriculture that is no longer just an idea. But this is only the beginning. More than 200 hectares of new land are already being prepared. Soon, machines and workers will turn that land into fertile ground. What makes this project even more powerful is not just the water it delivers. It is how the canal is being built. There are no international companies involved. No costly foreign experts are leading the effort. No ceremonies with engineers flown in to take credit. The canal is being built by the people of Burkina Faso, for the people of Burkina Faso. The equipment is local. The effort is local. The pressure to deliver is local. President Traoré didn't just give a speech. He gave a timeline, 8 months. That was the order. This is different from other aid-backed projects that stretch on for years with no results. When people are truly hungry, they cannot wait. Real independence cannot be delayed. To meet that deadline, the project has become a tightly coordinated effort. Workers continue late into the night using floodlights. Cement mixers are running before sunrise. Every delay is seen as unacceptable. Supply chains are moving with urgency. The operation is being run with discipline and focus. This is not just construction. It is a mission to take back control. But what matters even more than the concrete and machines is how people feel about this canal. For the farmers of Bama, this is no longer just about survival. It is about hope. When the rain stopped coming and food shortages became opportunities for middlemen, many families gave up. Now, those same families are coming back. They are not asking for help. They are taking back their land. The return of water has brought back pride. The canal is much more than a trench. It is designed with solar-powered pumps, pressure control systems, and soon, advanced monitoring tools to manage every drop. This is not an old system patched together. It is modern, reliable, and built to last. It combines smart planning with the strength of tradition. New storage areas are being built along the canal. Roads are being opened to help farmers bring crops to market. Water is going where it is truly needed, not where it looks good for officials. And most importantly, this transformation is meant to stay in the hands of local people. It is not being controlled by foreign offices or distant capitals. Still, Traoré's vision does not stop with Bama. This canal is the first major test. If it works, and signs so far are promising it could become a model for future projects. A design that others can follow. It would prove this isn't just a one-time success. It would be clear proof that real change is possible, not just in one part of the country, but across the region, and even beyond Burkina Faso's borders. But water alone will not make the canal a success. There's something even more important: that it depends on: people. It takes people to farm, to trade, to build, and to keep things running after the canal is complete. That's what leads us to the next part of this transformation. One canal is reshaping the entire economy. It is creating jobs far beyond agriculture. As water flows through the Bama Canal, it does more than bring life to the land. It opens up the full potential of the country. The canal itself was built quickly, but the real impact will last for generations. What it brings is more than cement and water. It brings energy, hope, and control. From roads and farms to food security, this is where Burkina Faso starts to make serious progress. Because if people are still going hungry, what's the point of building canals? President Ibrahim Traoré understood from the beginning that this was not just about moving water. It was about transforming Burkina Faso from a country that depends on others for survival into one that brings stability to the region. The canal was never meant to be the final goal. It's what will grow around it that truly matters. And what does that growth bring? For years, Burkina Faso's food system was stuck. It depended too heavily on imports and food aid, which left the country vulnerable to price spikes, political pressure, and supply disruptions. Hunger in West Africa could be caused by a flood in India, a war in Europe, or a shipping ban in Southeast Asia. Local farms, like those near Bobo Dioulasso, were not feeding the country. Not because the land was bad, but because it was neglected. Now that's changing. Those fields are coming back into use. With the Bama Canal, Burkina Faso is expected to produce 50,000 more tons of food every year. That's a major step forward for a country that used to rely heavily on imported rice, wheat, and vegetables. And these are not just rough guesses. These are projections based on real data from farms, planting patterns, and crop yields. But the most important change isn't just in how much food is grown. It's about who makes the decisions. Food sovereignty means having control over what your people eat, how it's grown, when it's harvested, and how much it costs. It means no more depending on foreign exporters. No more panic when ships get stuck at sea. No more paying triple the price for emergency food shipments that come too late. Instead, it means setting your own prices, growing what fits your culture, and avoiding outside conditions that come with imported food. Under Traoré's leadership, this mindset has started to shift national policy. Farming is no longer seen as just a rural concern. It's now part of national strategy. Government ministries are focusing on crop cycles instead of only military planning. Economists are including food exports in the country's financial targets. Agriculture is becoming a key part of how Burkina Faso builds strength and stability. This approach is also changing how power is shared. Now that farmers can count on water, they don't have to rely on luck. They can plan ahead and build lasting livelihoods. To add more variety, they are working together with nearby seed banks, rotating different crops, and investing in second harvests. Small farming cooperatives are becoming stronger. Women's farming groups, which used to be limited to planting in dry seasons with low yields, now have access to fertile land and reliable water. This is changing traditional gender roles in farming. Local markets are responding as well. Because crops are now available throughout the year, food prices are starting to go down. Every kilogram of rice grown locally brings Burkina Faso closer to food independence. As food costs stabilize, families are able to spend more money on small businesses, healthcare, and education. This has a positive impact that goes beyond farming. President Traoré's decision to bring technology into food production is even more groundbreaking. Technologies like AI-controlled irrigation, crop health sensors, and soil monitoring systems, once only used on big farms in wealthy countries, are now being tested in fields along the Bama Canal. These tools are becoming part of Burkina Faso's new rural economy. Food production is becoming more efficient, and the country is relying less on outside help with every digital reading and carefully controlled water pump. This is where the strategy gets even deeper. Burkina Faso is also shifting its international relations by becoming more self-reliant and growing more food. Countries that produce large amounts of food hold more power. Grain cannot be used as a weapon by nations that control their own food supply. Burkina Faso now negotiates as an equal. The country is also gaining influence by helping neighbors during climate crises. This is not charity. Instead of relying on weapons or political deals, Burkina Faso is using food like rice and onions to build relationships and strength. Though the canal started as a simple trench in Bama, it has created political strength, economic security, and a real chance for full independence. But beyond these improvements in farming and policy, an even deeper change is happening. It cannot be measured in GDP or tons of crops. People see it every day when they wake up to a job, not uncertainty. They see real work, real income, and a future. Because this story is not just about food, it is about people building their country with their own hands. The economy is being rebuilt from the ground up thanks to this canal. Pride improves lives, and having control over food fills stomachs. A quiet revolution is taking place as Burkina Faso starts feeding itself through a wide irrigation system. This change is not just about the amount of grain grown or harvests. It is about the growth of a local workforce that is bringing life back to the land and renewing the spirit of a country that has long been left behind. President Ibrahim Traoré has made it clear that this revolution follows one principle. Burkina Faso will be built by the people of Burkina Faso, not by foreign advisors, not by engineers from other countries, not by deals made far away or by imported workers. Instead, the country's own citizens, who were once seen only as recipients of aid, are now becoming the builders, managers, and owners of their future. This is most visible around the Bama Canal, where fields stained with cement, scaffolding, and the noise of machines tell the story. Although the project's scale impresses people around the world, what often goes unnoticed is how much local people are involved. More than 2,000 jobs have already been created. Each job represents a skill learned, a paycheck earned, and power returned. From technicians working on solar pumps, to masons building stone walls, from engineers calculating canal slopes, to welders making irrigation gates, every task is done by workers from Burkina Faso. This place is not just a construction site. It is a center for rebuilding the country's workforce and future. And that was never guaranteed. Most big infrastructure projects in Africa, especially dams or canals, usually rely on outside companies or partnerships backed by aid organizations. Important skills are hired from outside, profits are taken away, and local people often get only low-paying jobs. Traoré broke this pattern. Instead, his government created a local supply chain from scratch. Materials come from nearby suppliers. The country makes and fixes its own tools. Local businesses in Burkina Faso now handle transportation, a job often controlled by big multinational companies. Because of this, the canal is not just helping irrigation. It is boosting transport companies, farming groups, steel factories, cement plants, and local banks. It is more than just a canal. It is a whole system of jobs and money moving through the country. But even more powerful than these numbers is something harder to measure: pride. A 23-year-old welder working on the Bama project might not talk about water systems or the economy. He will tell you about how his family lost everything during dry years and how he once begged for work in the capital. Now, he earns enough to support his family. He is not just earning money, he is regaining trust in his country. He is helping build the nation in the truest sense. For many workers, this is the first time government money has come straight to them without getting lost in red tape, corruption, or middlemen. That matters a lot. When a government keeps its promises and pays its people by creating jobs instead of giving handouts, it gains something stronger than just popularity. People's loyalty is earned, but it is not blind. It depends on results. Traoré understands this well. That is why the promise to finish the project in 8 months was not just talk. It was a sign of his faith in his people's skill, discipline, and speed. More workers are being hired to meet the deadline. Training centers near the canal have started teaching skills in water management, solar irrigation, canal care, and farming business. These are not just temporary jobs for building the canal. They are long-term chances to turn young people into trained technicians and farm business owners. This also helps slow down the movement of young people leaving villages for cities or risky border crossings. Young people who used to leave in search of work are now staying. They see a future growing right where they live. Not because they feel powerless, but because they are shaping that future themselves. Do you think anyone else could have done what Traoré has done? Should other African leaders follow his example? Share your thoughts in the comments. Is Africa finally making the changes it has needed for a long time? Want to see more videos like this? If yes, hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching. Don't miss the next video.